In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what's going on in your brain when you experience anxiety and how you can take control of it and minimize general anxiety and acute anxiety as well. So in this video, I'll talk to you a bit about the brain, what it does, how it works, and the parts of the brain that we need to think about when we're talking about anxiety. There's a battle going on in your brain, and we need to win. And what that means is, when you do that, you can minimize your anxiety. Now, I might sound like I'm speaking in riddles at this point, but all will become clear, and you will learn how to manage your anxiety. The brain is an incredibly magnificent and complex organ. It does so much. Over 100 billion neurons, that's chemical information transmitters, kicking off, going off, firing off, I should say, in your brain all the time. The brain developed to be what it is today over 2 million years. That's a long time, and a lot's changed in that time. The world has changed, our environments have changed, and so our brains have changed to help us to live and manage in the world that we are in today. But sometimes it doesn't quite get it right. And this is what we're going to talk about. So there's the old part of the brain and the new part of the brain. And today's video is about anxiety. So we're talking about the fight, flight, freeze response, the F3 response. So we're going to talk about how that new part and that old part work, and also how they don't quite work together. And then I'll tell you about how you might be able to influence your brain to act differently, because it does so much. It affects us emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and physiologically when we experience something like anxiety. So let's talk about monkey, as I'll refer to it now. Now, that part of our brain is the old part. So think about old town and new town. This is old town. Monkey is tasked with survival, and she's done a damn good job about that, because look, we're still here, we're surviving. She does her job well. Now, monkey activates what's called the internal alarm system, I guess we could call it. This is the amygdala. This is the part of the brain that detects, is always looking out for signals and signs of danger, perceives threats, and then that gong, she hits that gong, and there we go, the alarm's gone off. Well, before we get to what could go wrong, let's just talk about what's actually happening. So once that internal alarm system has gone off, what happens is that our body is flooded with hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. These are stress hormones that will actually initiate a cascading chain reaction. We will actually start to experience physiological symptoms. So that's the tingling, the tension in the body, the heart rate increasing, sweating perhaps, shallow breathing. All of these kinds of things happen to us because we need to initiate the F3 response, which is fight, flight, freeze. And so this is what is happening. We are being given those hormones that we need in order to do one of these or more than one of these things sometimes. But also, of course, it does affect us emotionally. So this is where we might feel things like anxiety, panic, dread, fear, all of these kinds of things. It's all in the same vein, essentially. But it's so that we actually act and we do something about the threat that's going on around us. So monkey has done her job. Brilliant job, monkey. You've kept us alive this long. Great. What could possibly go wrong? Let's think about that, shall we? So the red alert's gone off, and we think there's a Borg cube on an intercept course, and it's coming at us. I don't know what the light year speed is, but it's coming. It's coming fast. So red alert has gone off. Everyone's at battle stations. We're getting ready. We're bracing ourselves. We're panicked. We're worried. We are scared. The problem is, there is no Borg cube. It was just a bit of debris from some old battle between the Klingons and the Ferengi. Okay, I'm going to stop with the Star Trek analogy because some of you might not even get it, but essentially it's a false alarm. And that's what's happening sometimes. This is what can go wrong. As you probably know, anyone with any kind of anxiety disorder, as they're called, or anyone who's experienced anxiety, sometimes, for example, let's think about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. A lot of the times, clients that I've had with OCD will know that their feelings and emotions and their thoughts and their experience is quite irrational. They know that, but they can't stop themselves from checking those locks 10 times, because if they don't, someone's going to die. They know that's irrational. But this is what it is. It's a false alarm. So how might we take control of this? Well, this is where monkey has to take a little bit of a back seat, and we need to turn to neo, or the neocortex. Now, this is the part of the brain which is known as the human brain. So we've got the monkey or reptilian brain, which is Old Town, and then we've got New Town, which is the human brain, the neocortex. Now, this is tasked with all kinds of executive function. This is like learning, memory, logic, reasoning, judgment, and it's thought to not fully form until even up to age 30. And this is why often you'll find young people taking a lot of risks, for example, because they might not have that same judgment, that same reasoning and logic about situations, and so they will actually take more risks. So you have this old and new town, these old and new brains that really need to learn how to function together. What we have to remember is monkey is fantastic. Even though we don't have, in a lot of parts of the world today, we don't have the same kinds of threats that our ancestors once did, we still need monkey. We need to be able to swerve out of the way of that oncoming vehicle, that reflexive action. We need to be able to leave some place when we feel danger. We don't know what it is, but we have this sense that something's about to go down and we need to get out of here. That's monkey telling us that we need to do that. And that's what keeps us going, keeps us safe, keeps us alive. So let's not knock monkey too much, but sometimes monkey can get it wrong. And this is where we need a bit of help. We need to lean into neo. So you see, sometimes I'll give you an example of when monkey might do this to us. So for example, you've had that meeting earlier today, and it's now you're at home, you're sitting at home, and you're actually thinking about that meeting that you had, and you're experiencing this emotional response about it, like you're feeling embarrassed about it, probably a bit of shame's coming up somewhere. It's affecting your self-esteem a little bit. You're starting to feel a bit kind of tense in your body a little bit, maybe a bit you're feeling a bit anxious emotionally and physically. And this is actually the F3 response that's happened. You're feeling something physiologically, you're getting those stress hormones. And all it is that you're thinking about an interaction that you had earlier in the day. And often people don't realize that other people are thinking about themselves. They're not necessarily thinking about you as you're sitting there festering in that anxiety response. So what's happened? Monkey has hijacked you. And what we're going to try to do is get Neo to take control. Because if you don't get Neo to take control, what happens is this anxiety response can actually affect your behavior now. So you might actually take to say something like alcohol to drown out how you're feeling. You might start to take comfort in foods that aren't necessarily good for you. You might avoid things, so you might not feel like going to the gym or going to see your friends because you're feeling a little bit sorry for yourself. And all of these things, if they keep happening over time, they affect general mood as well. So you go from having acute anxiety responses to actually feeling quite low and depressed in your mood a little bit. And you see how this can then affect your self-esteem. You might put on weight, you might develop an alcohol problem. All kinds of things can happen, and life can get affected in a bigger way. And this is where things can get a bit out of control in a broader long-term way, as well as in the moment when you experience that response. So how might we take control? This is where we really have to lean in to our rational brain. So that's Neo here, that's what we're talking about. Now, what that means is noticing what's going on. When you experience that anxiety, that fear, that dread or panic, whatever it is, that feeling, actually noticing in the moment what's going on. So even telling yourself, okay, I'm feeling anxious because of XYZ, but maybe it wasn't as bad as that. And really trying to pull yourself out of that emotional feeling that's consuming you. And this is the hijacking we're talking about. There is no life threat here. There is no danger to you, no immediate problem that you need to then release all those hormones that don't help you in the moment and perhaps in the long term. So firstly, noticing what's going on is important. Then it's a bit of that self-soothing. And then also trying to understand, and this is where therapy might actually come in, because we can try to do this by ourselves. But if you have deeper anxiety problem, then therapy might be able to help you. This is where we would want to look at things like triggers. We'd want to look at how you feel in situations, what kinds of things, what situations, what kinds of relationships, what kinds of factors affect your anxiety response. What is it that you find threatening about that situation? Trying to understand that, and then trying to put a spoke in the wheel. And what I essentially mean by that is that you might want to know a little bit more about your anxiety. So yeah, we could do something like cognitive behavioral therapy, which will really map out your anxiety response, understand what's keeping it maintained, how it actually looks, where we might intercept it in ways. So for example, would it be in terms of your behavior? Would it be in terms of your thoughts? What might we want to change? Your responses, that kind of thing. Or rather than or, it could be and as well, because we can integrate therapies. You might want a deeper diving approach. You might want to understand what it is about those types of situations or those types of relationships or people or whatever it is, what it is about that causes you to feel anxious and threatened on a deeper subconscious level even. Understanding the origins of your anxiety could actually help you to not just understand it, but also change it, because you can reframe how you relate to those situations, those people, and that kind of thing. This is what it's about. If you want to try to change your anxiety response, try to remember what's going on between the two parts of your brain, the old and the new. Try to remember that things aren't life-threatening sometimes when we experience this, because I'm talking about situations that aren't actually deserving of this kind of response, where it's actually disproportionate. So this is what you'd want to do. But if you need help with this, if you really need to do this with someone who's trained, we can certainly help you to understand your anxiety response and how you can take real control of it. So I hope you found today helpful, and I hope you'll subscribe, because next week we're going to be talking about couples and couples therapy, relationship counseling. I'll talk a little bit about what you can expect from couples counseling, a little bit about relationships, why they can be so difficult and hard to navigate, but also what we might do in couples therapy if you were to take that as an option. So do subscribe, do like this, do comment if you want to, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.